everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I am your host, Chris Stashew, and I am joined by my good friend, podcasting zaddy himself, projection booth's own, Mr. Mike White.
Why do you keep making me watch Robert Zemeckis films?
Why do I keep watching Robert Zemeckis films? The question lives on in all of us. So on this episode of the Culture Cast, I like how there's just like this level of disdain in your voice. On this episode of the Culture Cast, we are going to be talking about Robert Zemeckis' film in quotations, the only horror film he's ever worked on, directed, mind you. Yes, he was an executive producer and a writer on Bordello of Blood. Yes, he was one of the producers on Tales from the Crypt, but this is the only horror film directed by Robert Zemeckis. We're talking about Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer in What Lies Beneath.
She's awake.
We'll be quick and quiet.
I don't want to be either.
We're gonna miss you so much.
I'll come back all the time.
All the time? Did a great job. She's a good kid.
We did.
What are they doing next door?
I guess the neighbors are making up.
Leave it open.
Think we can take them?
It's worth a try.
It's just us now.
5, 6, 4. I heard noises. I didn't want to disturb you, but at the house, I was scared.
Claire's hearing things. What are you hearing?
Voices, whispering, a picture fell. Missing girl. Do you remember this?
No.
I stopped at this cafe to get a coffee and I see Norman, but he wasn't alone.
Look at this. Doesn't that look exactly like a face? And there's a hand, see?
Someone who's very close to me seems to be in contact with some kind of entity or spirit.
There's a ghost in my house.
Any idea what she wants?
She said... Did you know her?
I had an affair with her. She came out here to the house, threatened to kill herself.
Get out!
We can put this behind us. Our life can go on. It's not too late.
You had an affair with a girl who killed herself, and now she's trying to hurt you.
What does she look like?
She looked like me, only she had green eyes.
Stop!
Hello, Dr. Spencer.
You're not yourself today, are you?
No, I'm not. I think she's starting to suspect something. Your wife.
Film opened July 21st, 2000, in keeping with our pre-2000, but only in pre-2001, but only in 2000 theme for this year's Horrortober. It stars the aforementioned Michelle Pfeiffer, Harrison Ford, James Remar is in there for like a scene, Miranda Otto is in there for literally a scene. And did you by chance look and see who wrote the film, Mike?
I did.
Surprising, right?
Very surprising.
The man who wrote this film, technically the story was by Sarah Kirchonen, or Kirchonen probably. She's a producer, documentarian. She's worked on a lot of stuff. Her and Clark Gregg came up with the story. Clark Gregg wrote the screenplay. Yes, that Clark Gregg, a.k.a. Agent Coulson from the MCU, as he's better known now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Clark Gregg's married to Jennifer Grey.
Yeah.
Were we about to say the same thing?
No, I was going to try to somehow turn that into a Martin Scorsese joke, but...
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Martin Scorsese, old crotchety bastard all of a sudden.
I was going to say to Martin Scorsese, he's better known as the director of Choke rather than Agent Coulson.
Right, because Martin Scorsese does not recognize Marvel films as films. To him, they're garbage.
He didn't cry when Loki killed Phil.
He probably didn't watch any of the movies either.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because, and I quote, he's too much of an auteur to do such a thing.
I could give a shit what Martin Scorsese thinks of these movies.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And I don't think he's aware that he has caused all this supposed controversy, so...
Well,
and you know what?
It's not
That's
even
fine,
controversy.
Marty.
It's not even controversy. Your opinion is outdated. Not necessarily wrong, but it's you're just screaming into a void and no one cares. And look, what do you need to weaponize the MCU fans? They're already willing to do that if you say a DC movie's better, so...
Right.
They don't need a push, man. They don't even need a slight nudge. Just say DC around them and they'll go crazy, So back to this film, in quotations. What did you think of What Lies Beneath?
Well, this was the first time I saw this because I had seen the trailers and the...
which I think was almost unavoidable at the time. Even I remember seeing the trailers for this movie.
And I was just like, okay, well, I guess this is kind of a take on Diabolique with the whole bathtub and stuff. I didn't realize what all else was going in there. Yeah. It felt like there was something there, but what I watched didn't have a lot of substance, and it just felt like it was barely held together. There were so many times where I was just like rewinding the movie and rewatching it and going, what just happened here? Because we jump all around like crazy. There are moments where we just go from one location to another, and I'm like, wait a second, how did we just get here? It just feels like it was edited by like Skippy on his first day at the editing bank.
Yeah, and so the film isn't directed by just like some random guy. It's definitely directed by someone, Arthur Schmidt, who worked from 1977 to 2005. And he worked with Zemeckis multiple times. Mm-hmm. Worked on Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. Was the editor on one of my favorite films, The Rocketeer. Worked with Zemeckis on, I guess, his only other film that's kind of a horror movie, Death Becomes Her. He worked on Forrest Gump. He worked on The Curse of the Black Pearl. And yet, when it comes to this movie, all of a sudden, it's like someone is on meth editing the film. Yeah, and I was like, no, and honestly also has no sense of a story progression. How does a story progress naturally? And there's some like weird like quick cuts and like scene transitions that make no sense. And there are some scenes that feel like they've repeated on top of everything else, which threw me off completely watching it as well.
Yeah, there's the moment where she goes down and is talking to Harrison Ford in his den, and he's like, Wendy, darling, light of my life, when you hear me typing in here, or whether you don't hear me typing, or whatever the fuck else you hear me doing, means I'm working. But anyway, when she goes down in there, and then there's a cut, and all of a sudden they're outside, and they're looking in at this event that's going on, and then they're inside, and I'm just like, whoa, what is happening? And then there's James Remar, and she's accusing Remar of killing his wife, and I'm just like, wait, how did we get here? I am so confused.
Well, let's not, we're going to get to it, but let's not pile on the fact that the climax of this film takes 45 minutes.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
It is... You know that scene in Kill Bill where Uma Thurman is moving her toes or trying to? It's like that, and somehow I'm actually saying this, but somehow Tarantino did it better. Because in this film, it is just that idea, and we'll get to it when we get to it, but it's that idea, that kind of setup, but done way worse. And look, Zemeckis is a talented director. I would say he was. The stuff he's made recently, you would not be able to tell that this is the same gentleman who directed Back to the Future at all. But that's fine. He's not great recently. And What Lies Beneath, one could make the argument that What Lies Beneath was like the weird line that divides his career. Because on the other side of What Lies Beneath, we have Castaway, Polar Express, Beowulf, A Christmas Carol, Flight. Before What Lies Beneath, we have Contact, Forrest Gump, Death Becomes Her, all of the Back to the Future movies. A film I know you don't like, but I like it a lot, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's weird, because this movie is really directed poorly, edited poorly, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. I don't know about you. I did not believe for a second that Harrison Ford was actually the bad guy in this movie, because it feels like a bad idea to do that. Like, I know that that's a typecasting thing with Harrison Ford, right? Everybody knows him as Han Solo and Indiana Jones. But he's not believable as a villain at all. Like, I didn't buy it for 1 second. I don't know about you, but I didn't buy Harrison Ford as the psycho killer at the end of the movie.
No.
This is weird, right?
Well, the mix of supernatural and a detective story, I mean, it's like... I mean, I know that
feels like
Hitchcock...
2 different movies.
Yeah, it's like Hitchcock would kind of get into the supernatural, like there would be tinges of it in things like Rebecca and stuff, but it just... I mean, there are a lot of times where I was watching this where I was like, okay, this feels very Rear Window to me, especially at the beginning when she's spying on the neighbors. And then there are other moments where I was like, okay, this is a little Vertigo-esque to me, but yeah, just...
It's like dumb Hitchcock.
And then the supernatural stuff comes in. I'm like, okay, is this just in her head? Is this real? What's really going on here? And then I'm like, is Harrison Ford doing this? No, he's not doing this stuff. There's no way he's doing this stuff. But then she suddenly is solving the mystery via the supernatural, and sometimes not via the supernatural.
Well, and let's talk about something else that I don't understand, is you introduce the supernatural, but not only are they introducing the supernatural into this film when it doesn't need it, it's like checking all the boxes of like every single thing. So the film has what is essentially an exorcism. It has a possession. It touches on repressed memory. It has kind of a zombie at one point.
Yeah.
It has ghosts. It has a seance. Like, it has everything that you would need to check a box for to call it supernatural, right? Like, it's not one idea. It's 30 different fucking ideas in one film. And it's like, you need to pick one and explore that one idea. Because you can't pick 10 different ideas and explore all of them. Even though this film tries to, because we haven't even brought this up yet, this film is 2 hours long. 2 hours and 10 minutes long, and it feels like it's 3 hours.
Yeah, I was so surprised. Well, I was surprised and not surprised, just because, again, later period Zemeckis, like, starting with Forrest Gump, it's like, more is better, just pile it on, let's make this movie as long as we possibly can. It's like, please stop, please.
Yeah, it's not... It is a film that is not, in any way, shape, or form, able to justify its 2-hour runtime.
What I read was that this movie was made almost to kill time while he was waiting for Tom Hanks to, lose or gain weight for Castaway.
It was for him to grow a beard and lose weight. So Father Malone actually told this story in our last podcast, because I mentioned what we were bringing up. But yeah, he was losing weight and growing a beard in between the fat versions of him or normal versions of him and the emaciated versions of him in Castaway.
Well, why don't you just shoot the skinny stuff first and then, I don't know. Then
They're
shave
not
the beard.
Smart here.
No, I don't know. And he does so many things with CGI, you would think that he would just make CGI skinny Tom Hanks.
Well, this is in 2000, not 2019.
Well,
this film is almost 20 years old.
I mean, they did that for Captain America.
Yeah, but that film also came out almost 10 years after this one.
Well, okay. He gets
wants
so
to be a
enamored.
method actor.
Yeah, I'm just saying Zemeckis has been so enamored with special effects.
Oh, recently? Yes.
Well, I mean, ever since Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was doing a lot in Death Becomes Her, and yes, Back to the Future has a lot of special effects, but I'm saying like an overuse of special effects for me really came from Forrest Gump. I mean, I just picture that horrible lip flap from John Lennon. It's easy if you try, Dick. It's like, oh, God, please. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, what Zemeckis reminds me of a lot is James Cameron. It's like, I'm obsessed with technology. Dude, no one gives a shit. Tell an interesting story. Like, you don't have to muck your film up with blue people running around flying on pterodactyls. Like, you're just covering up the fact that your movie has nothing to say. And your movie is boring. And that's what this film feels like. This film feels like they're just spinning their wheels. And what I really don't understand about this movie is why is it not just a supernatural movie? Why is there this first hour of...
That's to lull you in and give you a false sense of security and make you think that this is actually about the neighbor and his wife.
But the trailer has the whole Harrison Ford thing all over it, right?
Yep.
I don't understand. Like, and again, Harrison Ford, there is no way that he's not the bad guy in this movie. You know that from, like, the fucking first frame of the film.
Oh, yeah.
He's acting like a weirdo the entire movie. And he's acting too calm about everything. And then, like you said, it gets to the point where he, like, completely turns. And I don't buy that at all. I'm still having a hard time believing that someone was like, let me cast Harrison Ford as a villain and let's see how that turns out. Like, it was never going to turn out very well.
Again, he's playing against type, so you would never think that he's the bad guy.
Right.
Because he's the nice guy in so many things.
I mean, yeah, until this. And it's like, this is why he is the nice guy in everything. Because it's not believable when he's the villain. Like, it's just, It doesn't work. It is so weird.
Yeah, I mean, was he...
And he agreed to do this. Like, he actively cleared his schedule to do this film. Can you believe that shit?
I mean, he's not bad in the role, and I usually don't like Michelle Pfeiffer very much, and I thought she was okay in a lot of this, but again...
I've seen Michelle Pfeiffer in so few things. Like, I have no opinion on Michelle Pfeiffer whatsoever.
And there are moments in here where I'm like, okay, yeah, she's playing the detective role pretty well, but, God, again, it's like she goes to that little town of Adamant, and of course there's, the sleeping dog. Oh, you should let sleeping dogs lie. I'm just like, wow, you're really subtle on your symbolism here. And then, like, they talk about, like, all of a sudden she was talking to him about going to this town, and then she's at the town. I was like, oh, okay, she must be there with him. But no, he's back at home, and then suddenly she's back at home too. And I was just like, what is happening here? What is going on?
Yeah, it's so weird, right?
It feels like this movie was 4 hours long at some point, and then they just were like, no, we got to really take it down.
To 2 hours.
To 2 hours and 10 minutes, yeah.
And look, the thing with the casting in this movie and the plot of this movie is it does feel like it feels like a Hitchcock film. It feels like kind of like an erotic De Palma film at times, because there's like the whole possession scene. So there's like these weird things from other people's films that, when done in other directors' films, they're much better, much more successful. And in this film, it's just dumb. Like, it just doesn't serve a purpose.
And yeah, the whole Remar and Amanda Otto thing is just a big old red herring.
That's all it is. Literally, that's all it is. Literally nothing else comes of it.
And then the stuff with Harrison Ford's friend, whose wife is known to her, to Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I haven't seen you in forever. So I'm like, okay, there's something there. Nope, nothing. And then I was very happy to see Diana Scarwood in here as her best friend. And then Scarwood is like, oh, yeah, I saw them at this cafe. And I was like, wow, you should have probably brought that up sooner.
Way to be a good friend.
Hey, yeah. And then I'm like, oh, well, there's something going on with her. She's got to be it. Nope, it's just Harrison Ford being a creep and being jealous of his own daughter, I guess. Is that their child together?
No, that's not his daughter. And they talk about that. So they talk about that at the end of the film, where it's like, maybe your suicide will bring us closer together. It's like, what the fuck? Which, by the way, I actually read the script for the movie. The film and the script are very close. Like, shockingly close. For a film that is, like, the script is 113 pages long. So, like, this film is actually, longer than the script, right? Because isn't it like a minute a page, right?
Yep.
So I guess the movie's like, 20 minutes longer, 30 minutes longer?
Well, I think 10 minutes of credits at the end, my goodness.
Oh, yeah, that too. But the other thing is, you know that scene in the bathtub?
Yeah.
That is a page and a half in the script. It is 15 minutes in the movie.
Oh my God.
It is a page and a half. That's it. It's like
Wow.
Harrison Ford dialogue, Michelle Pfeiffer's looking at something. Harrison Ford dialogue, Michelle Pfeiffer. And then that's like one page. And then the other half page is like he grabs her, sees the weird face, cracks his head. And like I was reading it and I was like, how did they get 20 minutes out of this? Holy shit. Like,
wow.
How did you get that much? So weird, right?
Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah. It's just so bizarre because I don't know if I believe that there is a good movie in here somewhere, but I'd be remiss to not ponder that. There has to be a good film in here. I just don't know what happened to it because it just got completely led astray. It should have just been either a supernatural movie or a like erotic thriller, and that's it. Pick one or the other. Don't try to do both.
I mean, I'm even okay if they mix genres, but it was just, like you said, the supernatural stuff was so inconsistent. It felt like so many other things. I mean, there were times in here where I was just like, okay, this is going to be like, let's scare Jessica to death, you know, especially all the stuff with the lake and all this. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was expecting, you know, Miranda Otto's body to be floating in the water and blah, blah, blah. Nope. I was just... okay, do something. You know, just be consistent with the story at least. You know, you can give us red herrings. You can take us in one direction, then suddenly make a left turn. That's okay. I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm fine with Marion Crane being killed in the first, you know, half an hour of Psycho or whatever. That's okay. But just have an idea of what you're doing before you do it. It just feels like, I know you said that this was very close to the script, but it just feels like it's so confused.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it is close to the script, and the script in and of itself is fucking confused. I mean, the script itself doesn't know what it wants to be. And, you know, Clark Gregg, maybe not the best screenwriter.
Maybe.
I mean, again, Choke is a film that he directed and he did the screenplay for, but it's based off of a Chuck Palahniuk novel. So the starting point for what you're adapting, it's pretty high already. So...
yeah, though I wasn't a fan of that one.
No, I wasn't a fan of it either. I like the book a lot, but I don't like the movie because the movie is a watered-down version of the book. Mm-hmm. In not a good way.
Well, and it felt like it was making reaches at Fight Club, even though the book doesn't necessarily go in a Fight Club direction. I mean, there's always the Chuck Palahniuk thing of, I'm going to pull out the rug from underneath you at the last minute. And it's like, okay, M. Night Shyamalan, I get it. I know your tactics here. I've read Invisible Monsters. I've read Fight Club. I've read all these other books. I know your tricks, and you really need to come up with something new. But with Choke, I was just like, okay, this is fairly straightforward for what this is. But yeah, Clark Gregg was just like, hey, remember Fight Club? This is by the same guy, so I'm going to give you all kinds of things that remind you of Fight Club.
I was like, no, I don't need it.
Yeah, thanks. This story stands on its own, and Sam, why am I forgetting his name?
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a fucking great actor that he doesn't need to start aping Edward Norton.
Great actor and great dancer.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And on top of everything else, Sam Rockwell can save a movie that has no right being saved. Just look at the original Charlie's Angels movie. That movie's great, and partially because of Sam Rockwell. And you know what? Thinking about Harrison Ford, if you were talking Harrison Ford and this film had come out in the 80s, this film might have been saved. Like, there is a strong chance that, given probably one or two more fine-tooth like lookovers of the script, another draft or two, maybe not having Harrison Ford be the villain of the film.
I mean, Harrison Ford can do it. I mean, people forget, like, you know, The Mosquito Coast or Frantic or Presumed Innocent.
Oh, but like, he's not the villain in those movies.
No, but I mean,
sorry to just like spoil all those movies. Like, I am not going to ever say Harrison Ford is not a good actor. Dramatic action, whatever you want to call him. He is a great actor, period.
I'm just saying that I think he's got more range than he was ever really given credit for, and can do more things than people think. And I think he could have been a good villain if he had had something better to work with.
I agree. I mean, I agree 100%.
I am actually surprised that they didn't go there when it came to her being in the tub and him talking about her daughter. I was really thinking that he was going to start making some incest insinuations.
That would be a smarter movie.
Yeah.
Again, with my issue with the end of this film, one of the issues with the whole film, is that the turn when Harrison Ford's character turns, it's too quick, right? Mm-hmm. It's like too sudden for its own good, and it feels like they're expecting you to be surprised that it's Harrison Ford. But up until that point, you would have known. Like, there's no question.
As soon as they show that drug that makes the mouse,
right,
conscious, and it takes
halothane, I think is what it's called.
Last 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm like, okay, there you go. There's a ticking clock for the end of the movie. My God,
right? Could
you telegraph that any louder? I almost had to cover my ears.
I don't know what you're talking about. Harrison Ford is clearly not the villain in this film. So
this will not come up later in the film.
Right.
Ignore this. Yeah.
She's allergic to peanuts. It's that level of telegraphed stupidity. And there's a level, I mean, look, because this is a horror movie, right? Which is, I think, something we really haven't talked about, is that it is a horror movie. And it doesn't really, I'll give it credit for not abusing horror movie tropes too much.
Well, is the spirit vengeful? Does the spirit want her to solve the mystery?
I think it wants to get its revenge on Harrison Ford, which means it wants Michelle Pfeiffer to solve
him?
I guess. Who fucking knows, man?
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, because the possession scene makes no sense, right?
No.
Zero.
No, because, I'm expecting her to possess him, then stab his ass or something.
Why wouldn't you?
Be possessed. Yeah. But instead, then there's that, I'm looking at myself outside, and I'm like, oh gosh, we are using mirrors like crazy. Again, it felt so filmmaker 101. It's just like, ooh, see, a mirror? That's going to signify this thing. Oh, and see the reflection of the ghost in the water? I'm like,
what about when the ghost writes on the mirror in steam, and the steam dripping down? Oh my God.
But she doesn't, does she?
No, because she does. Because remember, there's the whole thing about the repressed memory, too. That was the other thing. There's a repressed memory subplot that she, knows about his affair.
Yeah. But, you were going nuts when you were here at that party last year. Remember that one?
Oh, no, I don't. What? Weird. It's why are you... What the fuck? If it had shown it or something...
There's that picture that just keeps breaking. Maybe you should pay attention to this.
Look on the back.
Oh, Lord.
Fucking really just cornball. So... Like you said, it is filmmaker 101. And if there is a trope that's abused in this film, it's that. Things keep breaking because they're important. That is a horror movie thing. The ghost knocked this off the mantle. I wonder if there's something hidden inside of it, or if there's something on the back. Oh my God, fuck you. So I'm gonna ask you, because I'm curious. So, because we've been talking about Harrison Ford, and I haven't done a lot of Harrison Ford movies on the Culture Cast. I actually am gonna go out on a limb and say the only other Harrison Ford movie, and if I'm wrong, send me an email, tweet at me on Twitter and tell me. The only Harrison Ford movie I've done up until this point is Blade Runner 2049, and I guess Star Wars The Force Awakens, but that's a fucking Star Wars movie. And he's could be barely bothered to give a shit in that movie. What do you think about Harrison Ford, his filmography in the 90s? Because this is technically right at the end of that. Presumed Innocent, Regarding Henry. You've got both of the Jack Ryan movies. You've got The Fugitive. You got Air Force One, 6 Days, 7 Nights. Like, what's your kind of take on Harrison Ford post the 80s, where he, in my mind, has one of the greatest, like, decade of films an actor could theoretically ever be part of?
I gotta admit, I am not a fan. I'm definitely not a fan of his work in the 90s. Like, I might be in the minority here, but I really like both Alec Baldwin and Ben Affleck better as Jack Ryan than I do Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford just always seems so grumpy all the time, and this whole thing, he just seems so grumpy in the 90s. And,
he seemed like Harrison Ford, letting who he actually is come out.
And then The Devil's Own was just so weak. And, I mean, Air Force One, a lot of people love that movie, but I think they love it ironically because it's just so awful.
I mean, it's dumb. It's a big, dumb action movie. Like, it's just stupid. Like, I cannot imagine anyone, like, actively defending that movie and saying, like, it's a good film.
The one really bright spot for me is The Fugitive. I still absolutely love The Fugitive.
Well, The Fugitive is a great movie for two reasons. Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones.
Well, and the supporting cast in that. I mean, I just love it. I love everything about that movie. And I sometimes even give U.S. Marshals a pass just because those characters, most of them are back.
Boy, why?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know.
That's even something I'm not willing to go there.
I love those characters, man. I love those stupid little moments, like when they're in the Honorable Richard J. Daley building. All right, yeah, Richard J. Daley.
So.
No, yeah, that doesn't sound right. But when they're in that building and they're talking about the Irish parade, the St. Patrick's parade, and when the black guy asks Tommy Lee Jones if he's Irish, and he's like, "No, how about you?" and the black guy just gives that. No.
Isn't but in the second one in U.S. Marshals, doesn't like one of the main supporting characters die?
Yeah, I want to say the young one, doesn't it? Right? Because there's like there's Joe Pantoliano, there's Daniel Roebuck, and then I'm sorry to say, there's the black guy, there's the young guy, I think there's a woman in the crew.
Is it Tom Wood's character?
It could be. But it's not when the one guy has him in the Fugitive going, "I got you, man! I got you, man!"
Let's also not forget U.S. Marshals has Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Hell yeah.
Which is its own thing. But, yeah, The Fugitive's great. I mean, The Fugitive, for me, that is a Harrison Ford top 5 film.
Oh, yeah.
And that came out 93. But, like, so much of his stuff in the 90s is just awful.
I went to see 6 Days, 7 Nights in the theater, and I still wonder why I did it.
I don't mind that movie. But it's like Harrison Ford just kind of, like, I imagine that movie is just like Harrison Ford playing himself. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of what it is, right?
I mean, Anne Heche, I'm so glad she doesn't have a career anymore.
God, right. She is, oh dear. I don't know.
I'm a lesbian. No, I'm not. Just kidding. What? What was that all publicity? What the hell was that?
She was Jessie Smolletting before Jessie Smollett was a thing. I need attention. Let me do something. Let me do something drastic. Let me marry. Was she married to Ellen?
No, I think they were just going out.
Oh, okay. She was like, I can sleep in the same bed as you, but don't touch me.
Right.
So.
And I'm going to do this right before 6 Days, 7 Nights comes out.
Yeah.
So it's not suspicious.
Yeah. But yeah, that's right. Sheila Isaac was with Ellen and then left. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, for all that movie's problems, it's still a fun, stupid movie. It's dumb. It's real dumb. But like, that's the problem with this movie. It's not even fun dumb. It's just dumb. Like, there's no fun to be had here.
And I won't say I had high hopes going into this, but during the beginning part of it, I was like, oh, okay, this seems like it might actually be decent. I wonder why I haven't seen this before. And then as it went on, I was just like, oh, yeah, this isn't good.
Well, and two people whose opinions I trust, actually, one of them likes it because it's garbage. So Jess, she's off the hook. But Father Malone actually likes this movie.
Oh.
So he did say everyone's mileage would vary. So
yeah.
So there's that. Which I think my mileage and your mileage with this film varied the same variable amount.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little bit more than you did, but not very much. But I also...
I like parts, but like parts are not a whole.
I will fully admit that, I mean, like you were saying, the end of this movie just goes on forever. So I'm like, okay, I know everything that's going to happen. You know, he's not going to pop up here, but he'll pop up later. And I was just like, so basically like hitting that plus 10 seconds on Amazon. I was just like, okay, yep, okay, get out to the truck. Okay, now let's go. Okay, now you're going across the bridge where they made very clear that you can't get a signal till you're halfway across the bridge. Boy, they, again, just giving us this information. Yeah, okay. And then, and this happens to be the spot where the dead girl is. All right, cool. Yeah.
That whole scene is so poorly edited, too. I could not figure out what was going on. So the end of this film finds Harrison Ford taking Michelle Pfeiffer, sticking her in a bathtub, and drowning her, trying to drown her because she has the halothane, which means, like we mentioned, she can't move for several minutes. So he's going to drown her and fake it as a suicide. He's going to fill her up with Valium, which they mention like 10 times in the movie. But then he sees the necklace around her neck. That was the dead girl's necklace, and he picks up Michelle Pfeiffer to look at it, and she becomes the dead girl for a second. And then Harrison Ford, like, pratfalls backwards. I'm convinced he would have actually broken his fucking neck if he had done that, but whatever.
Yeah. So, and he breaks a mirror.
Yeah.
You notice, broke a mirror.
So then Michelle Pfeiffer has the Kill Bill scene where it's her, keeps cutting back to her eyes in the drain as she's attempting to pull the stopper out of the tub with her foot. So you see, Quentin Tarantino would have had a fucking field day with this scene.
Oh, yeah.
So she ends up getting out of the tub, running to the car, and there's like a Scream 3-esque scene, Scream 2, where it's like he's underneath the phone, and she has to... That's like straight out of Scream 2. There is a scene like that in Scream 2, where a character is, like, Ghostface is, like, the phone is in his pocket, and they're trying to grab the phone. It's that same thing. Of course, directed by Wes Craven, which means it's, you know, in an actual horror movie, not a movie pretending to be a horror movie. So she drives her car off, like you mentioned, to this bridge over Lake Champlain, and then it turns out Harrison Ford's in the back of the car somehow.
What
How
the hell?
How did he get in the car that again? But he becomes Michael Myers. Like, he just becomes every hulking, like, monster from every horror movie you've ever seen. He becomes that in the last 5 minutes of the movie.
I do have a very serious question for you. What is it that falls out of the back of the car as they're driving away? Is that a shoe?
Yes, it's a shoe. I don't know what importance it has, but they like linger on it for a second.
Well, there was the shoe that she was using during the first seance.
I don't think it's that, though.
Oh, okay.
Like, why would that shoe be there, is the question.
Then what the...
I don't...
Was I just waiting for the other shoe to drop this whole time?
Well, there it was.
Boom.
And so they go over the embankment into the lake after they make it all the way over the bridge, of course. Because I don't think they had the budget to show them going off the bridge. Though there is, I don't know if you noticed it, there is a really shitty CGI shot of, like, the car on the bridge, and it's like a wide shot, and then it comes in closer, and you clearly see Michelle Pfeiffer inside the cab of the car, but it's, like, just her in a car that's not moving, clearly not on the set. It looks really bad. I mean, it's really noticeable CGI. And what ends up happening is they go into the water, and, like, I can't tell what's going on. In the script, it makes it a little bit more obvious. Harrison Ford gets pinned into the car by, like, the mast of the boat that the car is dragging behind it, like, on a trailer. And so he, like, holds on to Michelle Pfeiffer so that they will drown together. So the secret, stays...
The secret of the ooze stays safe with Shredder. I got it.
Yeah, you got it. But like you said, yeah, it dislodges the car underwater where, of course, Madison, the character who he murdered, her body is there. And then she floats up, becomes a zombie, and grabs Harrison Ford.
Right.
She becomes a zombie. Like, a literal zombie is in this movie. If there's any other way of explaining it, please tell me. But it is a fucking zombie. Like, a straight-up zombie. Like a water zombie. Like, what else is it? Is it a ghost? Sure. It could be, but... it's not given an ethereal quality. It's literally just the body goes and grabs Harrison Ford and keeps him underwater so that Michelle Pfeiffer can swim away. At least that's what they explain it in the script. In the movie, way less obvious as to what's going on.
Yeah.
Really, the climax of this film, if anything really turned me off, it's the last 30 minutes of this movie because it is just a fucking mess. Like, it's a real mess. Like, if they had stuck the landing of the climax of the film, like the finale, I probably would have been a little bit more on board, because if they had given us Harrison Ford being a little bit more menacing, being a little bit more of like a stereotypical horror villain at the end, I might have been a little bit more on board, like he's like stalking her through the house or something. No, it's this really lame bullshit of like he has a drug that he can use to like knock her out, but she's awake. So it's like, yeah, fucking come on. It's really the climax of the film for me is a real bummer.
Yeah, I mean, had it climaxed in the bathroom, I think I would have been a little bit better with it.
Yeah, I agree. Like it didn't need to go all of a sudden a fucking road show where it's like they're going in underwater and there's a car. It's like, oh god, like
right. And if they want to go underwater, there's a lake right outside.
Yeah, no, they got to drive away. Like, what the fuck? It's again, it is a weird movie. It is not a horror movie, in my opinion. It is a film masquerading as a horror movie. If Zemeckis wants to direct a horror movie, but you can't direct a thriller and try to slap horror movie things into it, horror movie tropes. And look, again, the script by Clark Gregg, it feels like that. It feels like a thriller with these weird things slapped in there. It's not good. It's real bad.
No, it is.
It's really... Now you know why you haven't seen this film.
Yeah.
This movie made a lot of money. It made like $300 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the cast is spectacular.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
Ford.
just slap those names on the poster.
I mean, you put Harrison Ford on anything, right?
Well, him and, I mean, Pfeiffer was bankable at this point. This is, I mean, a few years after Wolf, which was bad, but she still survived that. I mean, yeah.
I will say that the first hour of this movie is better than the second hour.
Yeah.
Like,
some people really like Michelle Pfeiffer. So
this is like one of maybe 2 or 3 movies I've seen her in. Like, I've seen her in the Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was she was pretty good in that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, her in let's see, I think Dangerous Liaisons, she's great in. She's barely in Hairspray, but she's good in that.
I always forget that she's in Scarface.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that movie. So.
No. Yeah, I've never seen The Fabulous Baker Boys. And, she was good in Lady Hawk. But yeah, that's all I'm remembering, really.
She's kind of just one of those actresses that, like, I kind of just forget exists.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen Batman Returns, so...
Oh, okay. There you go. That's probably one of my favorite things that she's in.
And she is in that Maleficent movie that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I will probably go see.
Wow.
I know. I actually really liked the first one. The first one was a great rape revenge film.
Wow. And it's made by Disney, too. Isn't that special?
Mm-hmm.
Never, no interest. Just not something I have any interest in watching. I don't like Angelina Jolie, so.
Yeah, I like her.
Whenever I look at her, I just see Jon Voight. I'm just like, oh God, Jon Voight, run for the hills. So, what would you give this film out of 5?
I want to give it a 2, but I think I'll give it a 1.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 1.5. I'm going to actually be a little bit more generous. You know, as much as I don't know how you feel about Roger Ebert, because I've never asked you, but I think Ebert, in his kind of analysis of the film, is right, is that he felt like Zemeckis was doing a Hitchcock film, but was involving the supernatural. And Ebert believes that Hitchcock would never do something with the supernatural like this, and I would agree. It's just too much.
Yeah, like I said, he gets into hints of it.
I mean, it's very Hitchcock-inspired. The first hour is.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound design, the score, it's all, like, very reminiscent of Hitchcock.
I will give it that it does have a good sound design, and it's got a fairly good score, because I watched this with headphones on, and I was like, okay, this is all right.
But, again, Hitchcock never dipped into the well of supernatural like this.
Not to this extent.
Not to this extent of, like, ghosts and zombies and exorcisms and possessions. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see a good bathtub-themed thriller, I would say just rent Diabolique. Even the remake of Diabolique is better than this.
I was going to say, that ending scene is what that reminded me of. But again, done in a way that is just not...
Oh, yeah.
Not good.
The original Diabolique will still curl your hairs.
Yeah, and this will not curl anything.
No.
Other than maybe curl your eyelids shut as you fall asleep while watching it. Again, I'm not trying to poke fun, but at the same time, like, this movie is also 2 hours long, and I can't figure out how it justifies 2 hours. If there are movies that, like Casino or Goodfellas, where it's like, it doesn't feel 3 hours long. And then there's this movie where in the first 20 minutes, I checked my watch, I was like, oh, it's only been on for 20 minutes? Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
So let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
I believe in God and the devil. In fact, I know that they exist.
You know why we're here.
I'm going in with you.
You wouldn't last 5 minutes. Once you face evil, true evil, you discover something. Peter Kelson, I assume you're familiar with the case of Henry Birdson.
Yeah, what's that got to do with you?
At the exorcism, Birdson boasted that Satan was about to take over the body of a man. You are that man, Peter. I know you don't believe me.
Well, why should I?
I was possessed once.
The time of transformation is near.
They've contaminated you.
What would happen to me?
You have no idea.
Hello?
Watch out.
They had their 2,000 years. Now it's our turn.
I'm always scared that I could be one of them.
And on the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about another film, another horror film from 2000, an actual horror film, I would hope. We're going to be talking about Lost Souls, which features Winona Ryder. And I'm going to be joined by a Culture Cast newbie. However, if you have listened to Mike's podcast that I am on, that I co-host on.
It is our podcast. Thank you very much.
On Mike's podcast that I happen to be a co-host on, the Kolchak tapes, we have had him on there a couple times. Mr. Richard Haddam, he is one of the writers of DC's Titans, one of the only things that I think DC's actually doing of value, other than canceling the things that are good. So there you go. So he's going to be joining me for that. Until then, where can people find you?
Well, they can find us at our podcast, The Kolchak Tapes, which is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and other places where you can find fairly decent podcasts. And you can hear me at the Projection Booth podcast, which is available at projection-booth.com.
And what are you doing for Shocktober? Which is your version of Horrortober.
We are talking about Rosemary's Baby,
How could you talk about a Polanski film? That man raped women. I'm just kidding. I
Woke culture is just ruining everything.
I know. Woke culture, Jesus. Okay, Todd, calm down.
Youth culture killed my dog, and I don't think it's fair.
He was here for the gangbang, though.
Okay, yeah, he's always there for the gangbang. What else are we doing? The Wolfen, Rosemary's Baby, Dead Heat with Joe Piscopo and his muscles. And we talked about Fade to Black with Dennis Christopher. So, yeah, all over the place with this month.
I would like to point out that I'm one of your friends who I'm sure loves horror as much as the next, and I have yet to be on a Shocktober episode.
Okay.
I don't really care. I do my own thing for my own month.
Maybe next year.
Maybe 2021, because 2020 is already planned out.
I think you're on the Frighteners episode next year, Chief.
That's true, I am. But is that a horror movie?
Horror comedy? There are dead people in it.
I'll tell you what it is. It is definitely a good movie.
I disagree with that.
Wow!
So, looking forward to talking to you about it.
That's like a year in advance. Boy, was not expecting
that. I'm throwing down the gauntlet right now. And you know why I think it's a bad movie? Because of Robert fucking Zemeckis as the producer.
Yeah, I would actually... You know what? If I go back and watch it and I don't like it, I'm blaming Robert Zemeckis. You know what? Thinking about it now, oh my god, it feels such like a Zemeckis movie. In my head, I'm thinking of a film that is a mix between Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Dead Alive, and that is not what the movie is entirely, but Zemeckis' dirty little fingerprints are all over it.
All over it.
Well, that sucks. But you know what they say. We do podcasts to ruin the movies we love. As for me, you can find me on Dreams for Sale, which is a podcast that Mike and I do with our friend Father Malone, where we talk about the Twilight Zone 1985. I also do a podcast called Chronicles from the Crypt, where we talk about Tales from the Crypt, and we've been doing that for 5 years now, unbeknownst to some people on Twitter who don't think anyone is talking about Tales from the Crypt other than themselves. And what else? Oh, I do the One Season Show with Jess Byard, where we talk about TV shows that only lasted one season. If you want to find more episodes of the Culture Cast, head on over to culturecast.com. You'll find the entire list of podcasts that we have ever done since 2014. This is our fifth year, my fifth year of doing podcasts. And I couldn't have made it this far without friends like Mike to step in and, watch shit like this.
Aw.
You're welcome. You got to watch What Lies Beneath.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not sure that this is the worst movie we've ever watched for a podcast together, but it's up there. It's up there.
Yeah.
Because at least 2012 was entertaining. And it was somehow the same length as this movie.
Right?
This movie was the same length as 2012. Holy shit. Oh, God.